Hi everyone, welcome to TDEC's virtual summer camp. Today is our very first day, so we're glad that you're here. This week, all of the activities will be targeting K through 2nd grade. Next week will be 3rd through 5th, and so on and so forth. That way, each age group will have fun and engaging activities for them throughout the summer. However, we encourage viewers of all ages to follow along because we promise there will be something fun for everyone. So today is Make a Difference Monday. Today we'll be learning a little bit about how you can make a difference with your everyday decisions. Your everyday actions all have impacts on your local environment and wildlife. So today we're going to learn a little bit about how you can properly dispose of your used oil and to make sure that it doesn't get into any of our local habitats or wildlife or streams or anything like that. So for today's activity, you will need a few things. First, a liquid dishwashing detergent of some sort. Dawn works really well. Cocoa powder, vegetable oil, and 3 small bowls of water. You can put them in a cup too, that works fine. Any sort of container. I've chosen clear ones here so that you can see them very well. I have taken the liberty of going ahead and mixing together my vegetable oil and my cocoa powder. That is so that it will represent crude oil. Crude oil is non-refined or filtered oil that naturally comes from the earth. And it is what you hear about when there are things such as oil spills in the ocean, such as there was in 2010. If you do not have cocoa powder on hand, just vegetable oil will work completely fine. It works the exact same. The cocoa powder just helps for you to be able to see it, and it also helps represent crude oil a little bit better. You will also need a feather. This is a blue jay feather that I actually found in my front yard, and I thought it would work perfectly for this craft activity. However, you can easily find one at your local craft store, probably a Walmart or Hobby Lobby, anything like that will have one. Or hopefully you can find one in your yard or on a hike. Okay, so what we're going to do first is simply dip the feather into the water and watch what happens. So you can probably see it when you do it yourself a little bit better, but the feather is completely water resistant. As you can see, it's just dripping right off, and the feather looks the exact same. This is because feathers are designed to be water resistant. They help insulate birds from both water and the cold. So they're lightweight enough for them to be able to fly, but they're also strong enough to resist water and to help them stay warm in cold water and in cold temperatures. Feathers are very, very important to birds and their livelihoods. So next we're going to add a little bit of crude oil or our vegetable cocoa powder mix and see what happens. So as you can see, it is not mixing into the water. You can see big blobs of the dark mass just kind of floating around. The thing about oil spills is that they're not usually contained. For example, Tennessee has a lot of natural rivers, streams, and lakes, and none of them are sitting perfectly still like they are in this bowl. So what happens, for example, when there's a current or wind? So let's blow on our water to see what would happen. So now the blobs are much, much bigger. They've spread just like they would in real life. They would affect more areas and more wildlife than just that one spot where they spilled. So now we're going to take our feather and we're going to dip it into the water that has been contaminated with the crude oil and see what happens. So unfortunately, this is what happens when wildlife comes into contact with crude oil. As you can see, the feather is now weighed down. It's completely covered in the chocolatey crude oil substance. And it would probably have very unfortunate impacts on this bird that was trying to live its life. It would weigh it down. It probably wouldn't be able to fly anymore. And that's probably when you see beached birds close to the ocean, because they're unable to go anywhere after an oil spill because they're so weighed down. Birds also clean themselves regularly. They preen their feathers. So when they're doing this, they would actually get the oil in their mouths as well and can even swallow it, and it makes them very sick. This can also affect their insulation, and it may implement their ability to insulate themselves in cold weather, and they would not be able to survive. So now we're going to see what happens if we tried to just get off this crude oil substance with clean water. Not a single bit came off. It's all still glued on to the feather. It's all very shiny and oily still. So even if it found clean water, it would not be able to help itself or clean itself. So now we're going to try to add a little bit of this dish detergent soap to my last clean bowl of water and see what happens. So I'm just going to take the feather and kind of spread it around in our detergent water and see what happens. As you can see, the water is getting a little bit dirty. It's getting some of that cocoa powder crude oil off, which is good. And the feather looks much cleaner. The white tip looks white again. It's not weighed down. It's light again. And the water is repelling dripping off of it, which it did not do when it was dripped in oil. So, when you're doing this activity at home, take a few minutes to talk about or even write down some of the things that you learned about this activity and how you think that it can affect our local wildlife as far as birds and any other mammal or anything with fur, even fish, and all of the different effects that oil in our water systems can have. After this activity, we will have a link provided to you for TDEC's used oil program, where you can go to get all sorts of information on how to properly dispose of any type of used oil that you may have around your home, such as when you change your car's oil or any other type of equipment that you may have. At this website, you can go to find local convenience stations on how to properly dispose of this oil. Thank you for tuning in today. Hopefully you learned a little bit about how oil and human impacts can affect our local wildlife and our environment. Tomorrow will be Trash Reduction Tuesday. We will have a fun upcycling craft activity for you, so be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same time. This video will be shared afterwards onto our Instagram account, which is the State of Sustainability, and it will also be made available to you on our webpage for anytime access if you want to recreate this activity at home at another time. Thank you again for following along at TDEC's virtual summer camp, and we hope to see you tomorrow.